Okay, so give or take 5 or 6 months later, let's do an update. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about where things are going. Let's start a few conversations here today and dig into those and other conversations through videos later. But I think we've kind of discussed the whole meta aspect of this and like how it can really affect us and our psyche and our relationships and all that. And we can dig into that further in conversations, and I'm sure it's going to continue to evolve. But let's look at what this really means for industry. Let's look at what this means for creatives, right? And really think about some of the opportunities that are now showing up and are viable. And a lot of these things I'm going to discuss here or tap into for a moment are things that we're going to offer as a company and a brand with Propagation House Creative Studio, but things that I know others are going to be looking for and things that others can learn and really build skills around that will be helpful in this space. So, number one, I guess, really, we keep calling this the Metaverse. We can do that all day. I get it. This is the easy household thing to understand, right? But in terms of creating, right, I think VTuber is also a little bit too limiting. I think we need to reassess this conversation around virtual production. I say that because you can do this in real time, the same way that I'm filming in a virtual space right now to produce this video. But considering that there is a spectrum of the metaverse from 2D and 3D and full immersive, getting that blend understood of how to mix physical and virtual space and reality and perception into a production that can be really useful for brands or for individuals and people trying to do a really good job of storytelling and just providing context, right? At the end of the day, that's what this whole art form is really about, providing context. So what's going on, right? Like what's really going, how does this work, okay? And I think there's a whole conversation around AI. We are standing in the virtual museum of AI art that we built this year. It's also huge with Metamundo. Shout out the whole gang out there. We'll plug that here on the side somewhere. But what is, how do we do it? What does this mean? There is a kind of scalable approach to this. You can use virtual space in a 3D software just to animate something and create an item or to showcase an item. You could even, as we did, film an entire space in your program and use that as a set for your animation or your cinematic storytelling. But even on the simple side, right? If you're just a brand and you're approaching this and you're trying to understand, what is this? Okay, so what? I come from a photography background. I started photography and film, and so I had to kind of work that whole scene from corporate to copyright and pricing and all of that. And photo and copyright can cost thousands of dollars, realistically, and it should for very good reasons. You're selling IP, you're making money, right? But let's think about this approach. And photographers, this isn't going to kill you. You can also use this in your own repository, right? Digital production, virtual photography. You can do it right here in the space and grab your camera and all that and actually film something. Oh god, I'm just smacking my mic here. I have this. But what else, right? Say you're just a beer company or a drink company, right? You can take your can, you can get your 3D version of the can, and every single one of those labels that you print out for production, every single time you do a run, especially if you're a limited company and you have a small amount, right? That same little graphic, that PNG, you can slap that right into Unity. You can put your logo in, you can put your art in, you can throw it right into a space like this, and next thing you know, you've got an entire 360 orbit, beautiful shots, no mistakes, full light control, no hidden variables that are going to get in the way and screw you up later, weather, light, annoying people, camera issues. None of that's an issue here because you have full control of your environment. We've kind of displayed this with music releases, if you've seen the cassettes that we've done, or the Ruminations piece we did for the museum, that audio project we did with a 3D vinyl set. These are all things that you can do, and the beauty is, even if you had your physical release, you can have your digital release right next to it. Right? So there's so many avenues that we're already approaching here, and this is all just from creating the visual of a product, or a piece, or an artwork. How many iterations do you think you can make in 2 hours when you can make the sun go up and down, left to right, add a second sun, add trees, add plants, any item you might need for your set design you can place in the space? How much faster, how much less expensive do you think that is? I would say much faster, much cheaper. And the beauty is, when you need custom assets, you need custom textures, you need custom materials, you can go photograph and scan those things, you can go design and create those things, you can use AI to generate those things, and then fine-tune them further. Million discussions we can go here. But the real hone-in that I'm getting in out of this video here, this whole like understanding, is that virtual production is going to completely turn over how we approach film, how we approach advertising, how we approach photography, how we approach analysis of sports and athletes, considering the kind of motion capture that we just worked on 2 mornings ago, to take old archival footage of parkour athletes. In this instance, it was me for the test, to get a run and jump, simple 2D shot. From that information alone, we can get an entire 3D model, an animated piece, replay that in 3D space, put that down as its own asset, texture it and make it a different character, do whatever we want, put it in any environment we want. If we wanted to go into the film side, we can get all kinds of angles from one shot with our VFX team afterwards, from one take, and get a million different angles of the same motion. Like I could go on all day long. What I want you to get excited about, what I want you to start really thinking about, is the possibility of virtual production, of virtual product placement, of virtual filmmaking, and not getting lost in the buzzwords, but understanding how many tools that are available to you, how many you can access, especially if you come to a place like Museum of AI Art, where we've got all those tools that I was just discussing openly available because they're free to access. We're not going to hide it from you, right? All of these things are here, and they're cheap or free. And so if you know how to tie these things in together into virtual space, your ability to tell any kind of story, to frame any narrative, to host any kind of exhibit, conference, or just provide the context you need to make your idea understood is limitless here. So, one more time, virtual production. Next year, how is the metaverse going to create careers? It's already happened, right? I can say for us, we've done a full transition. We have completely transitioned away from commercial work. If we do it, it's because someone meets our mission and purpose, not because we have to, right? There's an entire community that is already here, that is already forming. Maturity of brand content, that's a whole other discussion we can get into. That's happening, right? We've got educational resources, we've got services. All of these things are starting to show up, and they're working for people, and they're working more efficiently, at a faster turnaround time and a lower cost often. The assets here and their immediate use may not be understood if you're not thinking about how to leverage them, but if you do, the opportunities are endless. Virtual production, virtual production, virtual production. Just keep that in the noggin. Let's talk about this throughout the whole year. We had a million other things going on this year. We're going to put a million more videos out, but that is the major focus. We have the architecture, we have the infrastructure, we have our own, identity here, but we want to show documentation on how that works. We want to show proof of concept. We want to record more of these events. We want to pull more brands in, more individuals, more creatives, more artists, all of these people coming together to make experiences that are a little bit more than something you just scroll past. These are experiences and memories you take home, you keep with you, and these are places that you go back to, and you build networks, and you enter communities. So again, I won't get all evangelists and meta on you. That wasn't the point of this. Thank you guys for the time. We will chat absolutely very soon.